You say you want to mod Skyrim. Very good. That's what this guide is here for. I want to help you turn your game from this to this. But at the same time, I don't plan on guiding you through the entire process step by step. No, I'm going to teach a man to fish. Unlike the other guides out there that hold your hand and treat you as a child through every minute decision, this one will focus on turning you into an intelligent and well-informed modder. Interested? Awesome. Stay tuned. Alright, so first things first, I'm going to tell you something and I need you to do your damnedest to accept it. Overhauling Skyrim with mods, or any Bethesda title for that matter, is a sloppy, messy, and painstaking process. There are no shortcuts to sitting down, learning how to use the tools, reading mod descriptions, searching forums, and debugging mod conflicts on your own. You will find issues, bugs, and problems, and they will make you frustrated. But this is all part of the modding experience. If this doesn't seem like something you want to deal with or face, it may just be best to stick to a few mods or none at all. I know you've seen the videos online titled something like Skyrim 2018 load order over 300 mods, or insanely modded Skyrim, amazing graphics. Perhaps one of them has even caused you to seek out this video. Those videos are nice, and I have nothing against them, but I want you to take a moment and think about what kind of mods they were using. Were they purely graphical? Just because the game looks good doesn't mean it plays good. Were there gameplay mods as well? Even so, that doesn't mean the experience was balanced. Did the footage look stable? Sure, it may be stable for 5 minutes, but what about in 5 hours? Keep in mind too, that the longer you play a character, the more bugs and issues will surface, becoming apparent. I'm sure you get the picture by now. Here's the good news though. It's entirely possible to make a 99% stable game with hundreds of mods that both looks fantastic and plays great, though it will require a lot of time and effort on your part. If you were expecting to whoop this out in a week or even a day, you will be sorely disappointed. Unless you're copying someone else's load order, something like this takes months of work for experienced mod authors, so I suggest keeping your expectations in check. I assure you, however, that a massive, stable, and overhauled load order is a thing of great beauty, something that you will certainly be proud of. Doubly so if it's one that you've poured months of tears, rage, and frustration into. In case you're not someone that's looking to massively overhaul their game, don't be put off. There will still be many videos that you will find useful, as I will be going over all the basics. Enough lecturing though, let's get into the logistics and what you will need to start modding. If you missed it in the title, my guides are entirely for the Special Edition version of the game. I truly believe that the Special Edition is the most stable and well-optimized version, based on my own modding experience and research into the matter. Not by much, but every little bit helps, right? This is because of its 64-bit nature and how memory allocation works. The details of that are way out of the scope of this video, so I won't be going into it here. What you do need to know though is that during gameplay, Special Edition sometimes has higher FPS, but more importantly is that in all cases, the game's FPS is more stable, so you'll see less drastic changes from one location to the other. This is something that plagues the old Legendary Edition version quite a lot actually. Obviously, this also has to be a legitimate version of the game. That's required for certain essential mods to function correctly. The source you purchased your game from really shouldn't matter. As long as you can install and reinstall freely, you should be good. I'll be using the Steam version as that is where I bought my copy. For the sake of clarity, I'll say it here. My guides are not for console users. Modding is very different on those platforms. It's much more restricted because the script extender isn't available there. Don't worry if you don't know what that is, we'll talk about that in the future. Basically, if you're on consoles, much of what you see here won't apply, and I will not be able to help you with your problems. Lastly, let's talk about hardware. This is ultimately going to be the deciding factor of how much you can mod your game. If you're running a 10-year-old potato rig or laptop, you definitely won't be able to overhaul your game to the extent you're seeing. My guides will be using the Windows 10 OS, as that is what I'm running. It's also what many others are running, so it works out for me. You can try out other versions of Windows or other operating systems entirely, but I don't know if they'll have specific issues or limitations, so you're on your own there. As long as you have an NVIDIA GTX 1070 GPU or equivalent, you should be able to just about maximize your graphics, if you have enough VRAM, that is. My GPU has 8 GB, which is just the right amount. But if you also want to record smooth footage, you will need something beefier. Your CPU's power is also important. Skyrim may as well not support multi-threading, so single-core clock speeds are your friend here. This won't affect the graphics you'll be able to crank out, unless of course your CPU bottlenecks your GPU, but it will limit how many gameplay mods you'll be able to handle. This is because many of these mods rely heavily on scripts, which are handled by this component. If you overload your CPU with these, you will notice control input delays and FPS slowdowns. As long as you have an i7 within the last 3 generations or so, you should be golden. Older CPUs or i5s will cut it too, just expect to be a little more limited when it comes to installing said mods. Overclocking also couldn't hurt your performance, so be sure to do that if you can. Same goes for the GPU. For storage, I highly encourage you to have a separate SSD for your games. I like to have a separate SSD for modded games altogether, as they can take up an incredible amount of storage, but this isn't necessary. If you want to max out your game, expect to need 200 GB, if not more, as we'll be using Mod Organizer. Trust me, you want an SSD to help cut down on your in-game load times, because these can get quite long with many mods installed. You may be able to pull through with a hard drive, but I really don't recommend it. You don't need a fancy NVMe SSD, the regular SATA ones work just fine, but if you have one of the former, I can't see how it would hurt your performance any. Alright, with all that out of the way, I leave you with these closing words. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with just one step. Throughout your modding experience, you'll encounter uphills and downhills, and many grades in between. You will get frustrated, and there will be times where you'll want to give up. But just relax, take a breath, and do your research. Rome wasn't built overnight. The solution is out there somewhere, but it may require you to make sacrifices, be it to your load order or your time. There are also many amazing modders and authors out there that will be more than willing to help you with your issues. The comment section of my videos are no exception. Just remember, however, that in most cases, the best we can do is guide you. We can't know all the particulars of your mods and load order. That responsibility is on you. Happy modding! I hope to see you in my future videos, and hopefully, once all is said and done, you'll realize, just like myself and many others, why the Skyrim modding scene and community is one of the most amazing occurrences in the history of gaming.